matter.
Oh, fair enough. Well, money is important, and Alistair knows it because he has that fancy monocle, so he obviously has money. Which is weird to me, Alistair, that last time you left your tab unpaid, Skitty told me about it. Don't think that noticed.
Oh, I thought it was Craig.
Nope.
I thought Craig was fucking us over.
No. Craig actually paid his tab, and he said, "Hey, it's okay. I'm going ahead and take care of my cousin, Alistair," and he paid Alistair's tab. So, hey, want to put it out there, Alistair, monocle or not.
Damn, I was giving Craig such a hard fucking time, too.
No. He may be country, but he pays his bills. He pays his dues.
He understands the struggle of living. I get it. I got you.
Yeah, it was difficult.
But hey, everybody, welcome back to the TBD Tavern. How are you doing? How are your holidays? I hope it's not too cold for you all. I hope life has been treating you well. And grab a beer. Make sure you have your money first. I see several of you running for the bar already. No. Hey. Where's the money? Where is it? Okay.
I think they heard that Craig was paying and they got excited. No, guys. Craig is only paying for Alistair. Not for you. Yeah. Don't look so disappointed. You had to pay. Come on, guys. Come on.
There's free water. You get that.
Actually, actually, Skitty told me that we should at least charge him like 1 pence or for water.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Well.
Also, this is technically not the States, so we don't have to legally give them water. I'm just saying. How about this, guys? There is free chairs for you to sit on.
Yeah. And free tables to lead into, a nice candle that's semi-romantic, I guess. But you know what? You're not here for the booze and for anything. You're here to listen to talk with us and hang out. So why don't you grab that chair, pull up to that table, and we're going to be talking about an amazing movie, by the way. I don't know if anybody else here has watched, but God, Godzilla Minus One. Oh my God. That is, I'm just going to put it out there. That is my surprise movie of 2023. And I am so glad I got to see it.
Yeah, you said it correctly there. Surprise movie indeed. I was ready to be disappointed considering how horrible the last couple of Godzilla movies, not including the, I guess, Godzilla versus King Kong one. That one was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But what was the other one? Shinji Godzilla?
Well, okay,
because you're the Godzilla expert, right? You're the resident expert here.
I wish. No. Shin Godzilla, I'm actually going to go to bat for. It's a weird movie from what I remember, but I like it solely because there's that one moment where Godzilla's like a tadpole, where he's like on the shore with no arms and just like lifts up and then just breaks a building down. It's from one of my favorite anime directors who's also very controversial and I appreciate his work. I don't appreciate the person. Hideki Anno, who also did Neon Genesis Evangelion, which we've talked about doing another podcast on. Let's see. So there's Shin Godzilla. Then there was the Godzilla.
The animated ones, right? The City of the Edge Battle and Planet of the Monsters.
There's that one. Okay. And then there's like the famous one that used Bryan Cranston to sell it. And then it's the one that... it's like just Godzilla, I think. And then any movies beyond that is like Godzilla 2000, I think.
What? Godzilla 2000?
Is it 2000? It's the one with Matthew Broderick. And
I don't know. That sounds ridiculous. Are you sure you're not? Okay. I was gonna say, I was like, that doesn't sound familiar, but I mean, it sounds ridiculous enough to be actually, Or
there's legitimately a Godzilla 2000 that was ridiculous. And I think there was another one that was made in like 98 or something where it was like,
the one in New York, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that weird looking Godzilla that looks like a, I don't know, like a what are they called? Not a salamander. It looks like those type of lizards that they have in Cancun in Mexico. I can't even remember. Oh my God.
Dude, oh God,
It
I
looks
just
weird.
remember
It looks weird. It does not look like your typical Godzilla.
there's just like that freaking the meme scene where they're at an ice skating rink and then Godzilla's got them babies that are charging after
Oh
the
yeah.
people, and like that's been memed by like Robot Chicken and other shows
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because that's what stands out to me. Let's see, where is it? Oh, it's Godzilla Final Wars, and then Godzilla 2000 is the one that I'm thinking. Millennium. No, no, it was Godzilla in '98. Then it was Godzilla 2000 Millennium, and then there was the Godzilla Final Attack. I think that came out. No, that was in Japan. So I'm thinking that differently. Those were the two American releases, and then Godzilla in 2014. That's right.
There's too many Godzillas and very few that you can count as very good Godzillas. That is for sure. But this one takes the cake, and apparently across the world because it's breaking box office. Right? I think right now it's at $57 million on the box office. It's
killing it.
it's
crazy.
killing it. I mean, what's really helping it is that its budget was so small, 15 million. That's it. Just 15 million. And they produced a movie that is just killing it right now. Seriously, Japan, wow. I'm surprised that if you could only make all your live action movies the same way as Godzilla Minus One, man, yeah, it would be fantastic. But I did some digging on the director, Takashi Yamasaki. And he has done, and throughout his career, he's done he's had some films that have to do with anime, like Parasite, Dragon Quest, Lupin the Third, right? So this dude, I kind of want to go back and look at some of these movies, dude, because like, he also does Stand By Me Doraemon. So, yeah, but some of these are animated. Some of these are animations, right? But nonetheless, what this movie showed us was that it doesn't need amazing graphics or animations because the storyline was fantastic, and the way that they related the things, how the movie was unfolding to actual historical markers historical points of this world that happened, right? Like World War II. Sorry, I feel like I'm ranting. Anbu, bring me back in. Where do we want to start off?
Okay, so the thing that I really love about this movie, there's two things that I want to touch upon, and we can elaborate further from there. One, I really loved its discussion on survivor guilt and trauma.
Ooh, yes.
Because his Shikishima's whole entire story is about a man that's dealing with some complex PTSD. Imagine, we've had this discussion out of the podcast and one-on-one, right? Where we talked about the idea of the futility of honor and pride. Because in the movie, what we see in the beginning is Shikishima like flying to, I think, Odo Island. Is that the name of it?
Yeah.
Where he lands his plane, says that there's an issue with it, and it's not. He's just afraid to die. This kid's like, what, 21 years old? It's 4 years into the war now. There's no reason for kamikaze fighter planes to do what they do, because the war is already it's just about over. We already know who the winner is. The narrative is set in stone. And he even mentions like he's done his flying in trainings, but never the actual thing. And we see this even more pertinent in the moment when Godzilla shows up on the island, and they tell him to shoot the .22 millimeter gun at Godzilla as if that's going to do anything. And he freezes, and because everybody dies except for him, and is the mechanic's name Tachibana? I think that's his name.
One of the mechanics is Tachibana, correct?
Tachibana, yeah. Who tells him it's his fault that everybody died. It just sets a really good tone for discussing survivor's guilt and trauma and the shame that comes with it, and the way that honor that like kills people.
Yeah,
Not
especially
to
for the
cut you.
Japanese people who are mainly about honor, right? It's really heavy in their culture. And at the time, going back to the historical point, right? And he had touched Oto Island in 1945. By then,
Hmm.
I think Hiroshima and Nagasaki had already happened. Even the mechanics had told them that the winner had already been decided, and at some point they told him that there's really no point in them going because all he's doing is kind of like throwing, moths to the fire.
Yeah.
The U.S. already won. There is really no honor, right? And I don't know if I was having this conversation with you offline, right, or somebody else, but what honor is there really in a warrior that goes to like a certain death to prove what point, right?
Hmm.
It's not going to make Japan better. It's not going to make anything better. I mean, in
Yeah.
reality, I think that what later on in the movie he learns is that what's important is those who's actually survived, right, and
Hmm.
help Japan come anew, right, build again, reconstruct with different values than what the ones that got them to even partake in World War II.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he that wasn't the plan for him. It wasn't. Oh, he even got a letter. If I remember, he got a letter from his family that said, "Please come home alive."
Yeah.
You know,
Survive or something like
even
that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, in my opinion, there wasn't any more honor in trying to fight that. And you're right, it was comedic that they thought that a 20 millimeter gun was going to be able to do anything to
Jeez, yeah.
Godzilla. I mean, he's already having to deal with such a shocking situation like becoming a kamikaze fighter. And then next thing you know, something that is otherworldly, right? Because till that point in humanity, there's never been dinosaurs, right? I mean, we knew they
Hmm.
existed thousands of years ago, but they never seen something bigger than probably an elephant or a giraffe. And then I don't know where this gigantic and the entrance. Honestly, I got to give it to the director for like the major entrance. Like he
Hmm.
did not hold back. Like it was like OP Godzilla just coming in and just like takes a swing at the tower, the watchtower for Oto Island, like nothing. He just kind of comes in like a wrecking ball and
Hmm.
just destroys everything. It's just a sight to see. And I think we also talked about how this Godzilla, there's something about it that's really primal and very scary about him. Like I've always liked Godzilla since I was a kid. The reason I even really got into movies was because of my dad. Um, I mean, so my dad's a butcher and he
Hmm.
worked at this grocery store for many years. And they sold there those like $1, $5 movie VHSs. So he'd always buy one or two and bring it home and we'd watch it together. And some of those movies were movies from Godzilla.
Hmm.
So I gotta thank my dad for getting me into Godzilla and letting me watch those really old kaiju movies. Um,
Yeah.
uh, but those Godzilla was always like this like mythical creature who came to defend the Japanese people and to kind of like set things straight still. I mean it still caused damage, right? But it was always fighting something else that was affecting humanity,
Hmm.
or it was there to alert humanity that something was going to happen. But this one Godzilla in this movie in Minus One, it wasn't the same, dude. Like it came knocking real hard for no reasons. And I
Yeah.
get it that like, the nuclear wars and the testing and all of that, like pissed it off to a point too. But, I don't know. There was just something different about that one. I don't know if you had the same thought, Ambu.
Well, I feel like Godzilla was always inherently political, especially in the
Oh,
first movie when it came out,
okay.
because it was a parable about like messing with nature. It was about like what we do to others, humans, and the results of it and the consequences. And I felt like that it was very similar with this movie, and I actually like that it expanded on that political scope when talking about the again the honor thing and like serving your country and giving yourself to your country versus the actual feeling of like why do I have to die because my government doesn't care for me. There's a lot of history in Japan that isn't said out loud because it doesn't show the homogeny of the country. So, for example, after World War II, if soldiers were stranded in the various countries that they were occupying, they would have to go to a repatriation center in Maizuru. And they would be asked questions like, are you still loyal to your mother country? Are you still loyal to Japan? Would you still give yourself to Japan? The questions that were like, why should I be asked that? Of course I am. That's why I'm here. And that's why we saw more exodus after that of like Japanese soldiers and people who left. So what I liked about this movie was it touched upon even more so like the political aspect of what Godzilla was about. When we see the plan to take care of Godzilla at the end of the movie, I know I'm jumping ahead, but just to give an example,
you're good.
Like, I love how or not that one. Let's talk about the first one when they first realized that Godzilla's coming towards Tokyo. When Shikishima's working with the boat and the captain's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to die. What's the point in like, why are we being used as fodder when we know we can't do anything to stop it? Yeah. But then also he says like, someone else has got to do it. And so it's interesting because it's not a political statement in that moment. He's saying, I'm doing it because I have other reasons and like, I'd rather protect people. So let it be me. So there's a lot of discussion on the way that, citizens were treated as expendable commodities rather than people, and the actual underlying feelings that I think a lot of people had at that time. And to bring up another thing, we talked about the museum in Japan where they show the letters of the kamikaze pilots and how sad and disheartening it is. Oh yeah, and how broken you feel after reading it because you realize that all these men were sent to die. And they had to run with it because that's what they were told that they had to do. That's what would bring honor to their family and to their country, and that's what was wanted of them. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't want to come off as insensitive to anybody in Japan who's listening to this, but like, how fucked up did it feel to be told that this is what you had to do? Your whole life ahead of you, and then everybody sending you off, saying goodbye, getting the flags with everybody's signatures saying ganbate and like go for it and protect and like and all the love, and your life is snatched from you.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's hard. I can't even imagine what a sight of that must have been for those families, or how brainwashed the country was. I mean, or maybe they weren't, or maybe that's how we think it was or must have been. But Japan has such a weird society where even if they feel like it's not fair, but everybody else in the country thinks that that's the right thing to do, they just keep quiet and allow it to happen. So I think that's maybe what happened back then. I don't know. But I really like the speech that what is he? I think he was the engineer, Kenji Noda. He gives a speech about how cheaply the lives of the Japanese had been considered, just like you mentioned, right? And how this time, and again, I know we keep getting ahead of the movie, but when they have plans on how to deal with Godzilla, how he says that this time it's not a plan of how they're going to destroy themselves, right? But how they're going to all survive to be able to live along better lives, right? So it looks like the movie, which again I was telling you earlier, I'm really surprised that Japanese movie, or that Japan allowed a Japanese movie to be so blunt about its history. Especially because Japan is not known for being very open about its vulnerabilities, or that it's not anything but perfect, and I think they even took some jabs in the movie stating how well Japan does in staying silent or covering up what really happens. But I guess that's why the movie was also pretty well respected too. Just like that vulnerability that this movie had, because in a way, Godzilla represents not just points in history, but let's be honest. Like, if you think Japan, you think Godzilla, right? You think Godzilla, you think samurai, you think sushi. Like, if you ask anybody about Japan, you ask them what are the first 5 things that you think about Japan, I'm pretty sure most people will say Godzilla. So Godzilla represents Japan. So Japan allowing this movie to be produced and made, I think it shows a lot about the future, if even current Japan. But going back to the Koichi, right? The kamikaze pilot. This dude was like consistently getting battered with emotional swords and maces to the face and to the back everywhere, because after he survived the whole attack from Odo, right? I think it was only that one pilot, that one mechanic. What was his name? Tachibana. Okay, so
I just go with Tachibana. Yeah.
Okay, Tachibana. He, Tachibana gives him a letter, right, with all the pictures of the mechanics and their families that died. But like we said, like a 20 millimeter is not going to do anything against that gigantic ass lizard. Like that it was gigantic. It was huge, and it wasn't even like mutated yet, right? It hadn't even gone through the whole nuclear bombs that were being used on, I think, on the island where it actually resided, or the area it resided. Because when we saw it first in Odo, it was much smaller than what we saw later in the movie.
Well, it showed what we know throughout the history of Godzilla's movies, is that the atomic bombs gave it its power. We're talking like that nuclear heat ray that it has. We're talking about the way that it changed its size and its regenerative properties. Like, those bombings not only pissed off Godzilla, but they just made Godzilla the ridiculous kaiju that he became. So, but
lizard.
Yeah, but to further along, what's crazy about, so I keep calling him Shikishima for listeners, but his first name is Koichi. I'm gonna stick with Shikishima just to make sure everybody knows that we're talking about the same person. So the thing with Shikishima is he gets back home, and in World War II, before the bombs were dropped, Tokyo was firebombed consistently by the U.S. We're talking, I think, over 900,000, like over hundreds of thousands of people that died from daily bombings. And if you read about it, you know that like there was the sirens, there was always the sound of the firebombs dropping. Homes were destroyed, countless homes. So not only is Shikishima like blamed for the death of everybody by Tachibana because he couldn't move and he was afraid to die, he gets home and his family home is gone. His parents are dead, at least from what we know. And his neighbor, Sumiko-san, she sees him, and at first she's like, oh my gosh, you're back. And then again blames him for the death of her kids because they died from the firebombs. Because why is he back home? She knew who he was and what his role was. So how dare you show up? You should be ashamed of yourself. Yeah. So imagine trauma, multiple moments of trauma just battering you, like you said, in every direction, to where you're ashamed to be alive, but you don't want to die.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine what he's going through in that. I mean, I can imagine, but I can't fathom the depths of the misery and the impact that has on him, because he's no longer living. He is, for all intents and purposes, dead in a metaphorical way.
Yeah, Japan's all about how people portray, or how you portray yourself, how you see how they see you. So it was. I mean, if it's already horrible for anybody to live with the shame, survivor's guilt, Japan's literally all about image, all about social image, like 100%. I mean, it contributes to the reason why, they have the what's the word I want to use? I don't want to use the S word.
Unalive.
Why the unalive rate is so high in Japan, because they're all about, how in society sees them. And that's just, it's horrible. And it must have been even much more worse back in the 40s, how people see you. And if you were supposed to be this great fighter pilot that was supposed to, save the country by literally laying down your life. I mean, yeah, dude, that's horrible. Yeah. And, his parents are dead. And then this neighbor's just telling him all these horrible things. And her kids dying, and him just having to imagine the kids dying in the fires.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Yeah, he literally gets bludgeoned with everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is his fault. The way that this country currently is now in the movie is apparently his fault because he didn't do what he was supposed to do.
Basically.
And it's just sad because I know, again, chat, forgive me, or for viewers or listeners, whatever, forgive me for jumping ahead, but in the whole entire movie, we see the duality of Shikishima. We see that he doesn't feel alive anymore because of the guilt and the shame of being alive. But we also see him wanting to live and move forward and this is what I love about the movie. You get told information without it being explicit, right? It's not just shoved in your face. You as a viewer, you're treated like you're an intelligent human being. You're watching stuff and you're picking stuff up. And so for example, to now move back and move forward, he's now okay, now I'm in Tokyo. I'm just gonna live here and whatever. And he goes to go get food, and then this girl is running. She's being called a thief. She literally just goes here's a baby, and then runs off. And he's like, what? What am I supposed to do with this child? And he sits with the child, and then he almost leaves the child. And that was such a big part for me. It was almost leaving the child. Then he's like, no, I got to take the kid because I can't do that. And then
I'll figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the girl pops up and says oh, I can't just show up in there and take the baby from you because I'd be too open or whatever. And then he offers her a place to stay for the night, and then she passes out. Next thing you know, they're living together. And it's it's interesting because, for someone who, pretty much, I think he feels like he's dead and he can't live. Life is giving him all these reasons to do so.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, and he always kept on talking to his parents, for guidance and stuff. And I feel like his parents are probably looking from him from heaven, and they're like, dude, we sent you a beautiful woman and a child. What else do you want? But I mean, it might be obvious to us, right? But so you're talking about an individual who has just gone through a lot of trauma, right? Yeah. So we all know that when things get rough, we tend to get we get narrow viewed, right? We tend to stop being able to look on our sides. So I think that's why he couldn't see it at the time. Plus, he felt guilty indulging himself in this. Wait, that sounded perverted.
Hey,
not like that. No, but indulging himself in the happiness of having a spouse and a child, in the experience, not in whatever you perverts were thinking. It was actually me.
Oh God.
But yeah, how I pronounce her name? Oishi?
Noriko. So yeah, it's just keep going. Sorry, I had a point and I completely lost it.
No, go. Oh, well.
No. God, I lost it. Come on, Silver.
It's cool. Go. It's all right. I'm just saying that Noriko just came to them, came to him to the right moment. And yeah, it was funny to see him just kind of do this whole double take on the kid and the baby. It was adorable when he starts leaving the little, I guess, downtown area where he was trying to get food, and he takes the baby with him, and I guess he's just gonna figure it out because now he has a baby. But Noriko was actually waiting for him outside, and it's like, dude, why did you take? She's like so casual, which is what I love about this character. She is like so casual to him, like you would expect from like a high school friend or like a friend that somebody that you've known forever. Because she sounds like even annoyed. It's like, dude, it took forever. Like, what were you doing in there? You know, he's like, what the hell, dude? Here's your fucking baby. Like, leave me alone. And then she just keeps talking to him. She just like doesn't even give him the opportunity to just dismiss her and the baby. She just like keeps going on like you're catching up with like a friend from work or school or whatever. And he's just kind of like allowing it because in a way, it kind of, in my opinion, as sometimes when you go through difficult situations, by having all that happen, you're not allowing yourself to dig deeper in your own mind. And in a way that's kind of like healing. I know that you might think it's kind of like a way to escape from it, but it really isn't. It's a way to kind of allow your own, I guess, psyche to heal emotionally by focusing on something else. That's why when a lot of people go through very traumatic moments, they always recommend you do something, go out, explore, feel, because that allows that other part of you to heal and maybe get a chance to come back. Not necessarily ignore the situation, but to allow that part that's been hurt to heal. And Noriko was giving him that. So unconsciously, he was allowing this woman, this woman and this baby to kind of just start, introducing themselves into his life, because he subconsciously was allowing it, even though outside he was like, why is this girl bothering me? Why? It's so annoying. Go away. I just want to be miserable and alone all by myself. But he was allowing it. It was happening. He could have, if he really wanted her, he would have kicked her out. If he really wanted her gone, they would have been gone, but they weren't. Because he in a way, even though yes, he is kind of like a good person, he wanted that.
Well, so I feel like, to me, in my perspective of looking at it, Noriko is, or I'm sure you share the same sentiment. Who am I kidding? I keep going like my perspective. I think we can both agree that Noriko is a representation of what it means to move forward and to live. Yeah. And unfortunately for Shigashima, he can't, because he does kind of have a death wish. He doesn't want to live because he feels like he doesn't deserve to live, because he's literally had several people tell him, bro, why ain't you dead? You should be dead.
Literally to his face. Yeah.
And so like, it's just sad because there's nobody that Noriko provides him the support that he needs, because we know that he wakes up every night from dreams remembering what happened at Odo Island. He lives with that memory replaying. And for anybody who might know somebody who has PTSD or has something small and that we think is small and insignificant could trigger that memory to come back. And sometimes you're just caught in that memory loop and you can't break out of it no matter what. There's no remedy to it. It's hard to find a solution to get out of it other than to try to distract yourself. Like you brought up, go do something, get out of it somehow in some way. But then also what I like about Noriko is the representation of social implications versus real, like being empathetic and recognizing a person as themselves and not what society tells us to think of them. Because the big thing that happens, I think, if you remember, is when Noriko goes with them to the house, he's going like, whose baby is this? Who did you sleep with? What happened to the dad? And she's like, basically like, what, are you slut shaming me, bro? Like, what's your issue with it? And he was like, yeah, I should know. It's important for me to know that you slept around with people. What's your body count? And she's like, I didn't sleep with anybody. I took somebody's baby because they told me to take her. And that was it.
Yeah, because they were dying. Right.
Yeah.
And then he feels like an asshole. But
I think it's a good representation, again, that we've discussed about like social perspective versus actual being human. Yeah. And it ties into like the whole, I think you've touched upon, which is like Japan and its presentation of its society and its people and and being unified and the homogeny versus really the much more complicated
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really like how Noriko kind of injects that change
Yeah.
in that perspective.
For sure. And you got to give it to her. You know, she literally starts to bring what is normal, peaceful, good life to him. This
Hmm.
little person, you know, that you gotta. This shout out goes to Janine and Moosey for bringing normalcy to Anbu in my life. You gotta appreciate your significant other, guys, because it's crazy how this one person. It's always baffled me. I'm about to get cheesy, but how much balance Moose brings to my life, especially because it can get chaotic because of my work and the tolling that it takes to my mental health sometimes. So yeah, man, she was doing this all by himself. Like she was dealing with this man with PTSD while taking care of a child who she'd never taken
Yeah.
a kid care of before. She was a kid herself, and now she's been promoted to basically mom and wife in a way, you know,
Hmm.
because even though he did not want to admit it or wife her because that was a big issue, guys. This guy wanted to be so miserable that he did not want to allow himself to say, "Hey, let's get married," and even to a point where it forced her to get a job because she wanted to get all on her own feet so that she can move on and allow him to be his own man and maybe find somebody else. But she
Yeah.
clearly wanted to be with him. But I think that obviously, in my opinion, they might have not been said, but Noriko, I think, fell in love with him first.
So yeah.
After. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No. Please. You're on a thought. Go.
I just think that she really fell in love with him because she saw how big of a heart this man had, and how even though his emotional side has been completely destroyed, he was still, and I'm sorry for using such an old fashioned statement, but I think it applies because it's an old fashioned movie, how much of a man he still was to then go to work, not ask questions, give her money, let her handle the food, let her handle the baby, make sure that things are taken care of the house, and allowing themselves to build this home back together because that house that he had from his parents was completely destroyed by the fires and the
Hmm.
bombings. So yeah, how do you not fall in love with somebody that like literally gives himself to you without questions? I think the most questions were, "What's your body count, bro?" But uh, this guy just kind of gave himself to them physically at first, but not emotionally. Um,
So I gotta
yeah.
I gotta counter that because one of the things I really love about Japanese storytelling and what I love about anime as well and everything else
Mm.
is the double storytelling mechanic that they use. So like the subtext essentially. So what we see versus what we hear. One of the things that I love that is such a I think a great scene to let you know what Shikishima's feeling is, there's the scene when after he gets the house, he has like the family, he has like the boat dudes that he's been working with. By the way, to let you know, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. He gets work as a minesweeper to like shoot the mines and break and blow them up in the ocean
Mm.
because there's so many left after World War II. So after he makes enough money to like build a new house for him, Noriko, and I think the baby's name is Akiko.
Akiko.
Um, everybody's like, "Yo, dude, like Noriko, huh? Like, too bad she's off the market and everything." And he's just like, "We're not together." And then everyone's just like, "Bro, are you serious? Why aren't you with her right now?" And then even
Mm-hmm.
Akiko is just like, "Otosan," like saying father, and he's like, "I'm not your father." And it's
Yeah.
not that he doesn't want to be her father, because in a shot before that, we see him on the boat where he has a drawing that Akiko gave him
Uh huh.
that he like stares at with love and admiration. We see in the moment that it's a betrayal of how he actually feels. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I find so beautiful about this is like we know that Shikishima has fallen for Noriko and Akiko. We know
And
that he
Akiko.
cares because
Yeah.
yeah, because like you said, he could have kicked her out at any point in time, been like, "This is my family home. Like, what are you still doing here? I literally
Yeah.
told you one day." And instead, it's like 3 years of them building a life together. where yeah, they're not married, but like he still gives her money for spending to go do things, so they take care of the house. He's now built a brand new house for them to live in. He's bought school supplies for Akiko and pays and works with Sumiko to like make sure she has proper care. They care for one another. There's just that acknowledgement of like there is something there, but Shikishima cannot let himself have that because he doesn't deserve it, or at least he doesn't think he deserves it.
Right. He has that survivor's guilt that just doesn't allow him, or like he says, right. My war's not over. Right. He's said that many times. But again, I counter. She fell in love with him first. That's what I think.
That's fair.
Because
That's fair.
and even Akiko fell in love with him first because remember what you just said right now. She called him dad. She was already accepting him as her father. A baby loved him first before he fell in love with that family. So in your face, I'm just kidding.
Okay, fine. I see your Uno reverse card. Whatever.
You have activated my trap card. No, it's fine. It doesn't matter. What the point is, though, they all love each other. This is like the perfect model family, right? And again, that trauma just doesn't let them move on. And again, I know it's very frustrating for us, but we don't have the trauma that he has gone through. Right. You go ahead and try and survive a gigantic ass lizard looking at you eye to eye, seeing a bunch of people get destroyed, and then knowing for the fact that you almost could have died, but because of not just the lizard, but also as a kamikaze killer, and then come back to get a bunch of trash from your people. Like it's a lot, man. It's a lot. And then you get to see all this death and destruction. That also does things to you. It's a horrible, I'm sure it's a horrible sight to literally come back home and all the buildings in the neighborhoods that you grew up looking at are gone. There's just rubble, fire, everything's gone. People are thousands of people are dead. It's horrible. I tried not to get too frustrated with him because he was going through a lot. And again, kudos to Noriko for being able to stay patient because she didn't leave him either. I think she was making enough money to probably even move out on her own, but she never did. Nope. She endured. She stayed. I think what she did was, I think she did it mainly also for herself, and to maybe kind of like give him a little bit of shake. It's like, hey, dude, I could leave anytime. By the way, you might want to put a ring on it. Just as anything that lasts, it doesn't last forever, right? Because we start getting into how Godzilla is now an angry boy, Angie. It's Angie, and it's coming towards Japan, and that's when he gets that job to be able. Shikishima gets that job to disable all those bombs. But all this time, they thought they were destroying them because, fishermen, blah, 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 they take care of Japan. But in reality, we find out that they're these magnetic bombs. And the reason they're using these civilians and wooden boats is because they're not going to stick to them, but also so that they can clear paths for the destroyers because they know that they have Godzilla coming. Right. Yeah. So they don't kind of want to they don't want to sink their own ships before they can actually try and take care of this fucking gigantic ass lizard. Not that it really helps. Right. Because I believe they at one of the expeditions that they head out to, Shikishima and his new crew. What are the name of the people? The captain. What's the name of the captain?
Let me pull it up real quick. I believe the captain's name is Yoji Akitsu.
Yoji, it is. Yeah, you're right. Yoji is the captain.
And then is it? It's Noda-san.
Noda.
Because he's the one that is the doctor with the crazy hair, like floofy hair.
He's the one that gives that speech. That's right. So and then just one more kid, right? I think I see here Mitsushima.
Is it Mizushima?
I think it is Mitsushima.
Yeah, I think it is. Shiro Mitsushima.
Yeah. So this kid, a doctor, and this captain, right? And Shikishima, right? And they find one of the destroyers just kind of like missing a piece of it because I think it got bitten into and just wrecked and destroyed. And the engineer Noda, he's just like, yo, this isn't like another ship shooting at another ship. This is like something gigantic, just like took pieces of it and just like shredded it. And I think that's when they have their first encounter with Godzilla, and Shikishima starts getting like this PTSD because he starts seeing all these like little deep ocean creatures just coming up dead up to the surface, which is what he saw what happened in Oda. But when he first saw Godzilla, you know, all the creatures just like showed up to the surface, and that's usually meant that Godzilla was nearby.
Yeah, because the villagers in Odo Island said that that's how you knew Godzilla was on his way, was the path of deep ocean fish that would pop up. Yeah.
Creepy shit.
Yeah. And I think the whole entire time too, they were fodder in a sense of they had to hold Godzilla off for as long as possible until the destroyer that was coming in, Takao, I think is what it was called.
Yeah, I think it's Takao.
Would come up to do a number on Godzilla. And so, like, they're trying to use mines to stop him. They're trying to use guns. They're having him chase them down. Godzilla's like, you're just, like, poking me with this gun. What do you think you're doing?
Yeah.
And Shikishima's just like, you know, I'm just going to keep shooting as much as I can, but there's not much I can do. And then Takao shows up, guns blazing, and they think they've done something to Godzilla. And then Godzilla's like, okay, you actually, like, gave me a paper cut. I'm gonna fuck you up because that's just how it is. That's the rules. And then I think that he like falls underneath the ship and then blasts it with the heat ray, right? Because we see the blue underneath Takal where like he just wrecks them.
Yeah. That blast, dude. Dude, like not only is it great. Not only is it like good CG or like really good effects, the sound, the impact that how the director was able to put that in the movie, it was crazy. Like you could feel how damaging that heat ray is, man.
Oh yeah,
like it was crazy to see that, and it's basically like a fucking Kamehameha. Just like wrecking havoc. It's crazy. And then the takes of Godzilla chasing after their tiny little boat. And that's why I said it was like, this Godzilla is like so primal because like the eyes, man, the eyes of that Godzilla just chasing you down gave me chills. I was like, dude, that is terrifying Godzilla. Not that the other Godzillas aren't terrifying on their own, but something about this one was like just, I don't know, man. Holy shit.
Yeah, shit, dude. Seriously. Like those eyes, they're focused. They are apex. They are staring you down. They're like, I'm going to kill you. And I have no remorse for it. It's like apathy, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no humanizing Godzilla in this movie. No. He's pretty much like, I'm a creature, I am a predator, and you are dead.
Yeah, there you go. I am a predator. Yeah, that's right.
And then like the only thing that stops him is they figure out to put a mine in his mouth, and then Shikishima shoots it and it blows up a chunk of Godzilla's face. And then they think they won. And like you said, what I love that this director does is he lets the dread set in. Because then you get that moment where everything seems great. They've defeated Godzilla. They figured it out. And then you see the regeneration of Godzilla's face.
Yeah.
And then you as a viewer feel your like stomach drop.
Yeah.
Like the crew does, because they're like, oh, this fucking sucks. Like I'm dead. Goodbye to my family. Like I'm out. And I don't know if that's actually before Takao comes in or not, but I just know. Oh, Takao was after that because that's when he blows him. He's like,
Oh
okay,
yeah,
I'm done.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna leave
That's right.
now.
He saves them because they're about to get wrecked. Because
Yeah.
Godzilla's like, "All right, you kind of, yeah, that really hurt. So I'm about to kill
Yeah.
you." And then yeah, that destroyer just comes in and just takes the attention from Godzilla from them because they're dead in the water.
Yeah.
And like you said, like you just explained, right? It gets wrecked. Right,
Yeah.
that heat ray, it just demolishes that ship like nothing.
Rip.
Mm.
Jesus. Which then, like, they get back, and I kind of want to move forward because I don't remember
Yeah,
too much of what happens a little bit after that. I just know we see a moment where we see the memory loop that Shikishima falls into every night when he dreams, where he sees Odo Island, everybody dying in front of him, Godzilla killing him, and we see the trauma kicking in, the PTSD kicking in because Noriko is like trying to ask him, "Were you having a dream? Are you okay? What's going on?" And that's when we hear how Shikishima feels, which is he's like, "I don't know if I'm alive. Maybe I'm already dead. Maybe this is just a dream of what I could have had." And then he does something that is very disgusting and I think we all agree was like, oh no, was he tries to throw himself on Noriko because he's like, maybe you're just the last like shred of a good dream that I could have because I'm
yeah,
already dead. And then she pushes him off and she's like, what are you doing? And that's when they finally have that conversation of him being like, I can't be happy because they died because of me.
yeah.
And that's her saying like, and her trying to tell him like, basically, I love you without saying it.
Hmm.
And like, you deserve to be happy and to live. And I want you alive. Please, like, live for me. We finally see the moment where Noriko says what she wants
Hmm.
is like, I want you alive because you matter to me.
Hmm.
And this is a big moment because the next moment we see, like you said, he always talks to his parents, their shrines, and he says, maybe I get to be happy, maybe I get to live. And it's such a tender, beautiful moment because we realize like he's finally ready to let it go.
Yeah,
Maybe he doesn't have to feel guilty. And then
yeah.
Silver, would you like to tell us what happens after that?
Well, let me tell you what happens after that. What happens after that is it's a horrible scene where Mr. Godzilla chooses to then show up at the bay to Tokyo and proceeds to wreak havoc while poor Noriko is in the city, right, working her little job.
Mhm.
Shikishima's with Akiko at home, being playing dad, starting to kind of allow himself to be happy, to be that dad, to be that husband. But then they announce on the radio, right, what's already happening in Tokyo, that Godzilla is getting close to the city where Akiko is working. And we start
Noriko, right?
seeing Noriko is working, not Akiko.
I was gonna say, damn, bro.
Sorry. And we start seeing how just like Godzilla has this, like, I guess, classic scene if you looked at the old Godzilla movies, right, where it's just walking down the streets in Tokyo, and it's just like wrecking everything and destroying everything and just wiping its tail around, and just thousands of people are dying, and people like, I never understood why people just stopped, because there was times where people would be like, they were like, and then they just stopped for a second, and then again I was like, dude, why don't you not just keep running? Just keep running. Keep running. There is no reason you should stop. Like, just go. And it also shows us a scene of Noriko going on the train to work, and she's just kind of chilling. Next thing you know, the train conductors see this freaking flying, what was it, like a truck or something?
I think it was a truck.
And it falls right in the road of the train. They stop it right on time before they can hit it. Obviously, everybody just like falls down because it's like a sudden stop in the train. And then they all turn to see like the most terrifying thing is freaking Godzilla about coming towards them because, he just decided to make that right turn where they're at and the train is stopped because that was the dumbest thing to do. Why wouldn't those conductors just reverse the shit out of that train, dude? Right? Like, come on. They had plenty of time. It's not like Godzilla was going full force. No, they're like, no, we're just going to stay here. Hopefully he won't come
I wonder
at us.
if it would have been that they would have to have run all the way to the other side and then try to reverse it.
Oh, maybe. I don't
But
know.
also, we talk about trauma responses and it could or not trauma, but like we talk about fear and flight and like trauma and everything else.
True.
Some people just like get stuck, dude. They freeze up. Like
That's true.
In bad moments like that, and it's just unfortunate that they're just like, oh shit, and then just stayed.
Yeah, but I mean, it took them a while to get there. That was a long stay. Whatever. I'm being judgy, and maybe I would also freeze. Maybe I would. Hey, sorry, okay. Maybe I would also freeze if I saw a gigantic ass lizard coming at me like that. Who knows? I like to think that I wouldn't, but who knows really until I see myself. Hopefully never. But yeah, Godzilla goes for the train. Our Noriko is there, and he grabs the train. She holds on for dear life. Everybody's falling out and dying, and she's holding on. I don't know how she does it, but she does it because that woman is tough. Finally, she sees like a good way to hop off the train while Godzilla's just like chewing down on this like chew toy of a train. It's like if you give your dog a chew toy and it's just walking around with a chew toy in its mouth. That was Godzilla, except it was a train. And Noriko was holding on for dear life. She hops off, falls into the water, survives. However, with that being said, Mr. Shikishima goes all the way to the city to try and save her. And because she was already tired, man. She was like in shock, right? When he finds her, it was such a like... It was crazy that he even found her. It was like a big city, but whatever. We're not going to go into that. That's
movie magic.
Movie magic. He finds her in the middle of the street, pulls her, and it's like, come on, we got to get the fuck out of here. And people are running. Godzilla finally starts kind of like putting it in drive, and starts shifting up. And I guess Godzilla was like, I guess I'm about to blast these bitches. Because he starts charging up its heat ray because it starts getting shot at by these tiny miniature toy tanks. They look really adorable, the little tanks. I'm trying to remember. There's this anime about like girls and tanks. I forgot what's it called, but it reminded me of those little toy tanks, and I'm all like, that is adorable, Japan. And Godzilla's probably thinking, ow. That kind of stings a little bit, and he charges up his heat ray, shoots the paper tanks. That gets wrecked, but it's basically like dropping an atomic bomb, right? Because it even left like a mushroom cloud, and just like the effect of an atomic bomb, it has a blast, right? And then it has a return, right? It pulls it expands. And then it sucks in like a vacuum. Everybody's shocked about this, and the person that should not have been shocked by this was Shikishima. And like we just talked about right now, right? Some people freeze up, some people just respond quickly to danger. Thankfully, Noriko did respond. However, in my opinion, she could have pushed herself away from the blast and the suction in time. She could have, bro. She could have, bro. She could have jumped. She could have pushed him and pushed herself into the side. That's bullshit. But whatever. Look, she decides to push him into this little like gap between these buildings to save him from the blast from the heat ray. And the vacuum of it all. And she leaves herself right there, kind of like in the middle, like, yes, take me now, Godzilla. Okay, so she dies, supposedly. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, real quick. Can I just say, that whole entire moment, it's movie magic. And I say this because, first of all, if those buildings are getting wrecked as it is, like, around him from just being around the periphery of Godzilla's heat ray, How is that one wall sturdy enough to
Dude.
where he doesn't get killed?
I don't
Like,
know.
first of all, you're right. Like, Noriko could have easily like jumped with him and pulled him into there rather than just pushing him. I'm pretty sure she could have just done that. Like, that could have saved us so much heartache, but of course the movie needs reasonings for Shikishima for later parts, right? But like, I'm not over the fact that somehow that building survives when the next shot he's looking for Noriko and he's like, huh? And the buildings behind that he's looking at, they're all freaking decimated. But somehow this one building, this one wall that Shikishima's behind is like, nah, bro, we fine. We're okay. Like, you had apparently enough weight on you to hold me together. So we're fine. It just was, oh god, this movie.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no. See, that's what I'm saying. Like she could have survived this because supposedly at this point in the movie she's dead, right? Who would survive that? Come on, like the blast pushed off buildings, vehicles, debris, twice her size. You know, anybody of her tiny like frame would have been wrecked by those blasts. He goes crazier than he already is, right? Well, due respect, he already has PTSD, but I think this pretty much throws him over the board, right? He at this point has gone from I want to kill myself to I need to kill Godzilla.
And also take myself out at the same time.
While killing myself. Right,
Yeah.
True.
Like,
True.
God, see, it's just the other thing too I was thinking about while we were talking about that is like the other part that makes that whole entire sequence so messed up is like when Noriko was trying to comfort him and tell him like you deserve to live, she talked about how she got over her survivor's guilt because all of her family died also. And she just said it just meant that fate meant that I was supposed to survive, so I just live with that. And here it is, like, you know, a man who thought he was dead is coming to life, and all of a sudden it's like the tables turn, where it's like, oh, he gets to live and she doesn't. Like, she's a badass. I just wanted them both to live. I was a big Shikishima Noriko stan the whole entire time. Like, let's make it happen. They deserve that family.
Ship it.
Let's make it happen. And then the movie's like, no, bro. We got another third of the movie to go. We gotta have some problems. So we're gonna make it to where she just throws him to the side and he survives an improbable situation and then she dies. It's fine.
Yeah. Masaki's like, oh, you all feeling happy and good and cozy? Hold my beer. Oh, sorry. Hold my sake. And it just, takes away Noriko from all of us and adds to this poor man's survivor's guilt. Right. Mm-hmm. But in a way, I guess it did something to him. It makes him angry, which he hadn't been. He had gone through a lot of trauma, but he had never been angry, right? But this time, and I guess it's because how much he actually did love her too, right? It's what's kind of like strikes that for him. And thankfully, after this whole occurrence that just happened, right, it causes a lot of citizens to get together with the that is organized, I think, by some former military and Noda, the engineer, to try and find ways for them to fight Godzilla, because during this time, what is it? At this point, 1950s, I think. So it took us. It has to been the 50s.
Years. Go ahead. Okay. Yeah, like late, very late 40s, like 49 to the 50s. I can see that.
Yeah. So around this time, World War II is gone. Japan is an ally now to the States. States kind of like take over in a way, not really an ally, more like they got taken over. Anyways, but the U.S. is having this thing going on with the Soviet Union, right? And there's also tensions with that. So the U.S. really can't jump. They can't really jump in and hop in to help Japan deal with Godzilla, because it's dealing with its own Godzilla. of its own called the Soviet Union. So they can't really do much or anything that might seem like it could be seen as a form of aggression, right? It can't really just start moving fleets out of nowhere because the Soviet Union might be getting nervous. That was like, oh, why is the states moving? They're saying it's about something about Japan, Godzilla. Haha, that's ridiculous. Who's going to believe that, right? So U.S. basically kind of wipes its hands clean from Japan and says, hey, figure it out. And Japan basically it does that, right? A series of people that are survivors from different destroyers and a mix of citizens kind of come together to try and see how Godzilla can get defeated. And the engineer Noda, who had been one of the crewmates with Shikishima and Akitsu Yoji, he comes up with the plan, right? A plan to drown Godzilla. It sounds ridiculous, but
yeah.
Basically, right?
So it's a approach where, I guess, in salt water, freon gas doesn't float; it pulls you down. Mm-hmm. And so they wanted to use an insane amount. I don't remember the exact amount. I don't think it goes into how much, but basically they want to pull Godzilla down about like 1,200 meters per second, because at the rate that happens, I think the body loses oxygen and it shuts down, and basically Godzilla should die. And then what they come up with as a plan B is, if that doesn't work, because it's a movie, it more likely is not going to. Their plan is to then use flotation devices to force Godzilla up rapidly, so his body can freeze and he can die, because the changes in pressure is way too much with how rapid it is.
Right. I mean, for a normal organism, just simply being sunk into the ocean at that speed, it would have already been enough to kill you, right? With the pressure change, the sudden pressure change. I mean, there's ocean creatures that can survive that sort of pressure and those sort of depths, but they're consistently in it. But technically, if you push any organism, even that type of organism, that quickly down, its body won't be able to take the adjustment. That's why a lot of deep divers and even astronauts go into these sort of like pressure chambers to slowly allow their bodies to adjust to the pressures and to the environment. Because if not, it could literally kill them. So they were banking on that. And again, like you just said, Anbu, right? If that didn't work, they then had these massive floaties for Godzilla that would skyrocket it out to the point where, again, pressure might be a factor, but also the temperature change would freeze it. But Godzilla has this like healing factor that is basically Wolverine level.
Yeah.
And it's just healing him. And he also kind of pulls a fast one on them, right? Because while they were deploying this whole thing, sorry to kind of skip ahead, he chews through some of the floaties, right?
Yeah. So real quick, one of the other parts of the plan that I found so funny was they used another derelict destroyer to play Godzilla's voice in the water, because they're like, let's piss him off, let's make this happen. And then they're like at the dock getting ready to get on the boat, and you just see this boat flung into a building, and all of a sudden you just hear so the underwater voice is now gone, the ship has been destroyed, get on your boats. But what's important in this sequence is Shikishima and Tachibana, because Shikishima is like, you need a plane to distract Godzilla, and I'm your pilot, so I need to do this. And he is adamant that it's Tachibana, because what we find out is he's basically wanting to fulfill or to redeem, quote unquote, redeem himself in Tachibana's eyes by having him repair this ship, this airplane, and to make it into like a kamikaze plane, in that he's gonna kill himself. Because I think you pointed out to me when we talked about it off the podcast or out of the tavern again, where those planes didn't have ejection.
Correct.
Switches.
Historically, the kamikaze pilot ships did not have ejector seats, and most of them were planes that did not have landing gear. And in most cases, a lot of the pilots were just taught how to take off, but never how to land, because there was no reason for them to land.
Yeah, and so what we find, and so like when before they launch, Tachibana keeps kind of going with it. Where he's like, you gotta like you gotta like do this for the families because they too wanted to go back home and all this other stuff. And we find out that like the plane has like replaced some guns because it had like 4 guns on it, now it has 2. There's 2 bombs on it. He's reduced the amount of gas he has for I think another bomb, so that way basically Shikishima's like, I'm gonna blow myself up. Even though I want to live, I don't deserve to live. Noriko's dead. I'm going to leave Akiko with Sumiko because she'd be a better caretaker. Right. I'm going to just die and honor the mechanics who died. And then there's this moment again that I think I really like is we see a lever behind his seat. And we don't hear what Tachibana says in this moment, but we get a shot from far away where we see Tachibana whispering something to Shikishima. But we still think that they're basically in agreement that Shikishima needs to die. And so, yeah, that's a big part of this operation, too, is like he's like going in. He looks like he's got if he had a death wish at the beginning of the movie, he definitely looks like he has a death wish now. Yeah. He's like calm. He's ready to go. And he's like pissing off Godzilla because Godzilla's already made it into Tokyo a little bit. And Godzilla's like, bro, stop poking me. Fine. I'm gonna get at you because you're just so annoying. So he pulls Godzilla back into the ocean, and that's when we run into the Freon gas where they do drop him. It doesn't work. They use the floaty. Godzilla's like, you think this is gonna work? Rips it, and they can't pull him up. And then, what was the plan again, Silver? And how was that solved? Like when they couldn't bring him back, they couldn't bring him up.
You know what it is. You just want me to be the one that's going to start crying while I'm trying to explain it. So a very emotional. Another thing why I love this movie so freaking much was because we had maybe like 5-6 scenes with Godzilla, and the rest was mostly humans. And other Godzilla movies have been known to do the same thing, but they've had really shitty narrative, and like the story, the plot was just bad and too sci-fi-ish and crazy. But this one told us about a very vulnerable man who finds a family that loves him and then loses it. And along the way, he met really cool people, right? And that same really cool people come in so basically Godzilla loses one of its floaties. Oh, sad face. So the ship the 2 destroyers that have him, pretty much tied up underwater, try and tow it out of the water. But you're talking about a lizard that's like about 10. I think they actually said that Godzilla's weight is 10,000 metric tons. That's a lot. Right, yeah. So these ships were not equipped to pull that much. It's just a lot. So what happens? We have the most touching scene where we have the kid from his original crew who he was told to not be part of this operation because they wanted him to live. He had a lot to live. That kid really wanted to partake in war, just like young people. The young people have this like idealization of honor, and fighting to defend for something great, being part of it. But they never think about the aftermath and the costs of things like that. So they didn't want him to be part of it. So they told Shiro to stay behind and not be part of the operation. But that same guy, he brings all these other tugboats from people that had backed out from the operation that did not want to participate because, it's a lot to ask from the Japanese people at this point. They just survived this war, right? They always seem to be giving and giving and giving to their country, and the country just doesn't give them anything. It just throws away their lives, like we just talked about. So they didn't want to be part of it, but somehow this kid got all these people again motivated and has them come out there in the water with this gigantic ass lizard to help these two destroyers ships pull Godzilla out. So all these tugboats just kind of tie, their ropes, and they all start pulling, dude. And it was such an emotional scene for me, at least, because like everything looked like it was gonna fail. Everything was going wrong, man. And then here comes this fucking kid with all of Japan's little tugboats. And it was just really emotional. I don't think we can really do it justice of how it was laid out. But know that it was the first part where I first was going to start crying like a little boy. I was going to start crying like a little boy so hard. I bit my lip in the movie theater so hard so I would not cry, because it was so emotional to see how these people just come together. It's always just emotional to see a group of people who disagree on things come together and working things out to survive. It's always been a good heart of a plot, right? We've seen it in all big movies, and this one, the directors just knew how to hit us with that emotional bomb, and they eventually are able to get Godzilla out. What happens after that, Anbu? What other?
Right. So Godzilla's freezing, but it's not fast enough. And it's clear that this is likely going to fail. Everybody is bracing for Godzilla being like, oh, as soon as I heal, you all are dead. Dead. So Shikishima's just like, no. This ends here right now. Like, you're no longer going to haunt me anymore. So Shikishima is just going straight for Godzilla's mouth because it's open. It looks like he's basically going to unalive himself. We're very just because of everything we've heard, and then we see this moment where he pulls the bomb safety, but we see the airplane land in Godzilla's mouth, and it's silent. Everybody's silent. There's just this did he do it? Is Shikishima dead?
Yeah.
And then they see him parachuting out. Because what had happened was we learned that Tachibana had forgiven him. And and then we finally hear what he told him in the scene that we saw them just talking. He was like, there's an ejector switch. You need to live. And I think that's what's so big about this movie is it's a movie that tells you to live, to keep living. Yeah. And so, I think the plane blows up in Godzilla's mouth. Godzilla's now turning into chunks. He's breaking apart. No. What it was he was charging up his beam. That's why it was so key. He was charging up his beam. Everybody was getting ready to be well, damn, we're dead. And that's when Shikishima drives the plane into him, and he dies because it hits the bombs, and then Godzilla basically disintegrates as a result. Yeah. And everybody's happy. Everybody's alive.
Everybody is alive.
And Shikishima we see him finally being able to live. And it's a touching moment.
It is a super touching moment because I wanted to touch back on Tachibana. Shikishima basically allowed Tachibana to move on by allowing him to be part of something like this, because Tachibana had also isolated himself, right? And by kind of working again and doing his own part in something important, something big, it allowed Tachibana to kind of work through even his own feelings. And that's why, again, he made him that ejector seat. Because he forgave him. He believed that he deserved to live, and that there's really nothing that he could have done, dude, against something as big as that, man. But it would have never happened had Tachibana never gotten out of his own hole. Because Tachibana didn't have a Noriko. Yeah. Right. So
well, at least that we don't know of.
Well, you're right, but it didn't look like it because he had been, I thought it was said that he had been laying low in the movie, but regardless, Shikishima allowed Tachibana to work out even his own, inner demons about everything that happened then. And you're right. The reason that they were able to kill Godzilla easily then was because he was ready to charge up and just wreck those poor little tugboats too. And he lays in on them, because I think that they had also loaded the plane with some bombs in there, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I mean, heat ray plus bombs equals Godzilla getting disintegrated into the ocean, into little chunks of meat. And the emotional part when they all come back, right? And the people of Japan just kind of like receive them in like this like glorious thing, right? And it's so moving, right? To see all these people just celebrating. But one more cool thing happens, guys. What is that? What happens when they then ship Anbu?
So what happens is, I think Sumiko gets a note that says that Noriko is alive, and all of a sudden, like people are going up to Shikishima and being like, "Dude, did you hear the news? You need to go. You need to go." And he gets Akiko, and they go to Ginza, or like some city offsite, like a little ways away from Ginza, and they find Noriko alive. She's got bandages on. They all start crying. Shikishima falls to the floor. Akiko is like walking towards her. And then we get this moment where Shikishima looks at her as he's crying. She's like, "Is your war finally over?" And he finally says yes. And it's that part. I mean, okay, this movie made me cry so many times. Like
I wish I could have cried.
Well, like the part where Sumiko tells him like you should have died. The part where he starts crying and saying, "I don't deserve to live." And then just Tachibana saying like, "Please live." And then this part, like, God, it tore at me because it was just so beautiful that it was like a recognition of we can finally like start our life together. But like any true movie that has potential sequel, we get clues that not everything is as rosy as it looks, right, Silver?
Yeah, the first one is when, he obviously finds out that Noriko is alive in the hospital and just kind of healing up. And in their own love language, basically, they say to each other that, he's ready to commit. We see that she has like a weird little mark on the side of her neck. Some people have been saying it's radiation poisoning. Some people are saying that it's like a mark that appears according to the Godzilla lore of people that are somehow marked or impregnated by Godzilla. Let's not dive too much into that one. Sorry, furries. It's also a way to allow these certain people to have like a sort of like psychic connection with Godzilla, right? It could be many things. We don't know, but it does show that there looks like plans that we might even see another movie after this. That in the chunks of meat in the ocean. We start seeing a gigantic chunk of meat in the ocean just kind of floating and then start pulsating, and then just kind of comes alive and starts to regenerate. And as we've seen before, Godzilla likes to regenerate. So we think that it's probably not dead. It's probably not going to be the same Godzilla. It'll probably be a different Godzilla. I mean, I would think because like only chunks were left. So like, how would the brain even be alive? I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, but here's the thing that I like about I'm going to say I like the ending. Even if it's not a sequel, I like the ending, and here's why. The whole entire movie is about how life is about surviving and the small victories and looking and living for tomorrow. And not like big sweeping like moments. It's about the little moments. It's about like being called Otosan or being able to be loved again and learning to let go. It's that life. It's like symbolic of how life is complicated and it has its ups and downs. And so like I appreciate that Godzilla is basically confirmed that he's going to be coming alive. Whether or not that's for a sequel or because they can't just kill off this popular monster, even though they totally couldn't do another reboot, whatever. I just like the symbolism behind that for the movie. I think that's such a touching way for it to go. And
Sure. For sure.
fuck,
However, I would love to see. I would love to see though a baby from Shikishima and Noriko. So I would be open to a second movie, and I'd be excited to see what else comes next because next time we see this movie, we're probably we'd be seeing things in the 60s and 70s, probably even seeing Akiko already being maybe like a 10 years old, 11, 12 years old.
maybe.
So it'd be cool to see Akiko be incorporated into the story, right, and to partake a little bit more, which is I think where they could even take this movie. But yeah, dude, if it was to end here, I'm satisfied. It was a fantastic movie. I did not need to see Godzilla CGI all the time. I did not need to see all these badass fights that we had with Godzilla versus King Kong, which those were good on all of their own. I'm not hating on them. I really like them as well. But we didn't need to see that. We got like a really cool, like realistic love and story. It was just great.
Yeah.
But that was it, guys. We really enjoyed this movie. Check it out. Give it a shot. If you can't go to the movies, look forward to it once it comes out on streaming services because it's definitely something you want to watch with your significant other. It's a good little date night movie. I know a Godzilla movie might not be like a good date movie, but trust me, this one is.
It's just a good movie. It's a heavy movie. It's a surprising movie. It's not just a monster movie. It's a political movie. It's a commentary on being human.
Good.
Like, do yourself a favor. Go see it.
Definitely, guys. All right. Well, guys, make sure you close your tabs. It is getting late, and Skitty still needs to do all those dishes. Sorry, Skid.
Yeah.
And pay your tabs, guys. Don't be a bunch of it. Alistair, that goes specially to you. Craig is not going to be here to pay your tab every single time. I'm not going to let it happen, man. All right? Don't be a cheapskate. Just saying.
Yeah. Because now you're just opening another tab just with another person. That's
True.
all it is. Yeah.
True.
But no, and also everybody that's here to hang out with us as we regale about Godzilla Minus One. If you can follow us and like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you listen, please do. Tell your friends about us. If you don't like us, well then tell your haters about us. We'll have a good time with them too. We welcome them in. But we wouldn't be here without you all. And we just want to say thank you for your support, for keeping up with us. We will see you when we see you.
All right. Bye, guys. Good night.
Later. Good night.